real. I am today's service coordinator. Welcome to this brisk first Sunday in December. Today, appropriately, we are discussing the Soul Matters theme of joy. Joy is that urge when you want to jump up and down because you're so happy, like just happened a few seconds ago when I said good morning and everyone else said, okay, that's what we're here to talk about. All right, got it. Okay. All right. So let's gather both physically and virtually together. There we go. Here we go. If you are in need of help, reach out to Reverend Denise, our minister here at Greater Nashville UU, at the email that you see on your screen, revdenise@gnuuc.org. She will help you, or she will find someone who can. Our chalice lighting this morning comes from the poet Mary Oliver. Her poem, Mindful. Every day I see or hear something that more or less kills me with delight, that leaves me like a needle in the haystack of light. It was what I was born for, to look, to listen, to lose myself inside this soft world, to instruct myself over and over in joy and acclamation. Nor am I talking about the exceptional, the fearful, the dreadful, the very extravagant, but rather of the ordinary, the common, the very drab, the daily presentations. Oh, good scholar, I say to myself, how can you help but grow wise with such teachings as these, the untrimmable light of the world, the oceans shine, the prayers that are made out of grass. Each time we gather in worship, we recite our covenant to reaffirm our connections to each other. Please join me in reading it if you are so moved. We covenant together to make a welcoming community, to walk together in the way of truth and love, to seek the life of the Spirit as it is known by each person, to support each other in thought, word, and deed as we work to build a better world. For today's service, I'm going to need a few helpers who know how to make bubbles without taking your mask off. Are you a helper that knows how to make bubbles without taking your mask off? Aha! Claire, if I get your help to distribute these bubble wands to people that know how to make bubbles without taking your mask off. Alice, do you have an idea? And would you like to show people how you do it?
Yes.
All right. Huh? Oh, there you go. All right. So let's all take some time and do that. for a while. Feel free to move around and run and jump and be happy. Yes. Yay. Okay. If you're on Zoom and you're lucky enough to have some bubbles nearby, great. There might be a kitchen that has some dish soap that you can make bubbles with nearby.
Can people say this?
Well, if you stand over by the, well, they used to be. Oh, there we go. Yes.
If you stand in front of me, they can see you online. Oh.
Okay.
Come here. I'm trying to avoid people if you don't want to. It's okay. What a great idea. People will wish they were here.
Woo. Okay, I'm a little dizzy because I just spun around in circles a lot. All right. Woo. And take a minute. All right. Y'all keep doing that as long as you want. I'm gonna talk a little bit. Y'all blow bubbles. If y'all are at home and you want to go to the kitchen, take your phone with you, make some bubble stuff. We'll be right here. So welcome to the month of joy. So let's skip a little bit of vocabulary straight so we know what we're talking about when we talk about joy. Joy and happiness are not necessarily the same idea, right? Happiness is more of a prolonged cognitive state of being, right? But the writer and designer Ingrid Fettel-Lee, in her book, Joyful, The Surprising Power of Ordinary Things to Create Extraordinary Happiness, says, joy is a brief experience of very strong positive emotion, right? So it doesn't need to last a long time, and you shouldn't be sad when it goes away. It'll pop up and it'll go away, and then a little bit later it'll pop up and it'll go away. Right? Joy is simpler. It's more immediate, right? We measure it with smiles and laughter and the need to jump up and down. Right? Joy is contagious, like other emotions. Joy creates smiles. Smiles are contagious. It is admittedly more difficult to smile behind a mask. But I have been practicing getting big eyes with people as a way of smiling, right? Right? Nodding, right? Waving. I think we learned that during our photograph earlier. When your mind experiences joy, it's more likely to notice things or notice other things, right? And when it is not experiencing joy, when it is experiencing stress, your mind tends to close down, right? And focus more on exactly what's in front of you and ignore other things around you, make you less likely to notice other things that might make you joyful, right? So joy kind of feeds on itself, right? Joy makes us more resilient, right? And it reduces stress. Neuroscientists have looked at this idea of joy and cortisol, the stress hormone, and you can actually reduce your stress hormone levels by deliberately giving yourself joyful things to do and see, right? So that was a very cognitive way of describing joy, right? But there are other modes of learning. So for the time for all sages today, we have a great little story that teaches about joy in a very different way. So our friend Lee Morris from her Story Songs series has a story today about a strawberry. So Jesse, let's take a look at that.
let me tell you about the tiger and the strawberry. Once there was a wise woman who every evening after dinner went for a stroll, just to wind down the day. And on this one particular evening, as she was walking, she heard behind her a low, unfortunately familiar growl. It was the sound of a tiger that had caught her scent and was crouching, preparing to pounce. The woman didn't waste a second. She immediately began running for her life in the opposite direction, but she knew also towards the cliff. She had no choice. She had to get away. And as she dove over the side, at the last second, she was able to grasp a root that was hanging from the cliff. Up above, she could see the tiger just as it swiped its paw and tried to grab her. She was able to duck out of the way, but the tiger paced back and forth, waiting for her to tire of holding on to this rope. Now, luckily, the woman knew that the fall below was just a few feet. It would hurt, scrape her up, maybe break a bone or two, but it was survivable. So she looked down to find a good spot to land, only to discover that another tiger was pacing the ground beneath her feet. And as she hung there, debating, strategizing, trying to imagine a possible way to escape, a mouse scurried over and began nibbling on the roots that she was holding on to. And in that moment, she noticed that growing out of the side of the cliff, there was a small wild plant with a plump, red, ripe strawberry. So with one hand, she reached over, grabbed it, tasted it, and savored that sweetness. This story reminds us that in any situation, we can be open to joy. It isn't always easy, but it's always available. And this story inspired this song. Trouble above, trouble below, trouble ahead of me. What do you know? Wake up in the morning. What do I find? Trouble is everywhere, but ain't none on my mind. 'Cause I got peace like a river, I got love through the night, I got joy like a fountain, I'm gonna be alright. I've got rhythm and harmony ringing in me. Love is free, love is free. Peace is free, joy is free, free, free. Is there strife in the world? Is there strife in the home? Are you feeling a little lost? Are you feeling alone? Waking up at midnight. Do you remember your dreams? Riding a raft on a cool, gentle stream. Yes, you have peace like a river, love through the night. You've got joy like a fountain, my dear, you can be alright. 'Cause you've got rhythm and harmony ringing in you. And Love is true. Love is true. Peace is true. Peace is true. Joy is true. True, true. Whatever way you're looking, there is something there to see. Is it a paradise or prison? Or what do you believe? We can have peace like a river, joy from our souls. We can have love as a beacon, guiding everywhere we go. Let our hearts beat the rhythm, let the anthem we sing be. Love is free, love is free, peace is free, peace is free, joy is free, free, free. Love is free, love is free, peace is free, peace is free, joy is free, free, free.
Oh, how lucky we are for her. Let's look at our Share the Plate partner for this month, December. Share the Plate partner for the month of December is the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee and their Guest at Your Table program. The UUSC works around the world to advance human rights and social justice, transforming our UU values into actions. Greater Nashville UU has a long tradition of celebrating Guest at the Table program. The theme of this year's program is Now is the Time for Courageous Change. We have Guest at Your Table boxes here in the sanctuary, somewhere, maybe later. And you can donate online via text or by check using the instructions on your screen. While you think about that, we have the story for all ages from the UUSC this year.
In today's story, I want to introduce you to 4 people who live in different parts of the world, but are all working with UUSC to help their communities have more justice and more resilience. Justice is another word for making things fair, and resilience means having the ability to heal after bad or hard things happen. Even though we don't have a chance to meet them in person, I want you to imagine they're coming over for dinner with you and your family. Think of them as a dinner guest, telling you an interesting story over a big plate of your favorite food. All over the country, other kids like you are imagining the same dinner party and learning about the same people as part of a program called Guest at Your Table. The program is a chance to learn about 4 courageous people making a difference in their communities. This year, the 4 people we're going to meet are Axel, Myra, Maina, and Christian. First, I want to introduce you to Axel, who lives in Missouri. Axel works with the people who work in the food processing factories in the Midwestern United States. Many of the food service workers Axel works with are immigrants and refugees. Without them, we wouldn't have a lot of the food we find in our grocery stores. They feed our whole country. But even though they have this very important job, food service workers are often treated badly by the people that own the factories. They don't make much money, they are forced to work for a long time without breaks, and they had to work all through the COVID pandemic without many of the simple items that would have helped them be safer from the virus. To fight back against these unfair conditions, Axel is helping to organize people who work in these food processing factories so they can work together to get better working conditions for themselves and their communities. Next, I want to tell you about Myra, an activist who lives in the United States now, but she's originally from a country called Burma. Burma is also sometimes called Myanmar. When Myra was a little girl, her village was attacked by the country's military, and she was forced to flee her house along with her family. They weren't able to bring anything with them when they ran, and they all had to travel through the forest for many days before they reached the country next door. Eventually, Myra was able to move to the United States. Now that she is safe, Myra speaks out on behalf of the many people still in Burma who are facing the same military violence that Myra went through as a little girl. What Myra and her family went through was very scary, and making sure this kind of violence stops is very important to her. Myra is using her voice to call attention to what is happening to the people of Burma now. The third person I want to introduce you to is Maina Talia. Maina lives in Kiowa Island, which is part of the nation of Fiji in the South Pacific. Many countries in this part of the world are facing the impacts of climate change now. They are losing land to the ocean as sea levels rise. Kiowa Island has a higher elevation than many of its neighbors. This means that Kiowa Island will be a safer place to live as sea levels continue to rise. In order to prepare for welcoming new people to Kiowa Island, Maina and the members of the Kiowa Island Community Organization are working together to create community resilience by making plans and planting trees that will help the island withstand the forces of climate change. Lastly, I want to introduce you to Christian, who's from Nicaragua. In Nicaragua, many farmers have a hard time making a living because giant agricultural companies own the land, the farming equipment, and even the seeds. Christian and the other women in their farming cooperative are doing things a little bit differently. They care for their own land. They use traditional farming practices that do not harm the soil, and they plant a variety of different kinds of seeds that have been used by their communities for generations. This way of farming helps the land heal and helps women gain financial and social independence. Christian is helping her community build resilience from both climate change and violence against women with their feminist farming cooperative. I hope these stories were a chance to learn about the challenges this year's 4 guests are facing and how they are fighting for what is fair and for what is right, while also helping their communities become more resilient. Through Guest at Your Table, your congregation and other congregations around the country are helping provide the guests with the resources to do their work. Together, we can make a better and fairer world. Thank you.
Do you ever notice how when you work really hard to explain something in a way that kids can understand, then grown-ups understand it better too? I felt like that was one of the best Guest at Your Table videos I have seen in a very long time. So thank you for that. That was really great. All right. It's time to kind of take a moment, center ourselves. We have a meditation today. It comes from the song From You I Receive, this time sung by the Reverend Kristen Grassel-Schmidt of the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Larger Fellowship. Now, for some people, it's helpful to move their hands while they're singing or thinking or meditating quietly. And so if you'd like to do that, you can use these hand gestures. So the first part of the meditation goes, from you, I receive. All right, there we go. Right. And then it goes, to you, I give. The next part goes, together, we share. And the last part goes, by this we live. All right, so we'll do that one more time, because practice is fun. All right. From you, I receive. And then to you, I give. Together we share. And by this we live. Yeah. So if that's fun and you'd like to do that, that brings you joy, then do it. All right. All right, Jesse, I think we're ready.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live.
All right. So now I have a story about a very joyful activity that we do once a year here at Greater Nashville UU. We have a long tradition of the first weekend in December being used to hang the greens, which means put shiny, glowing green, light, flashy things around because colors are fun and it's dark and dreary outside and lights are fun and ornaments are fun and presents are fun. And so that's just fun. So that's what we do. There's some photos of some kids from back in 2007, right? 14 years ago, right? Hanging of the greens. And on that night, we would decorate the tree and we would make ornaments and we would sing. I think we've got some more slides there. There we go. And then we tell some stories. Another slide. There we go. Oh, there's ornament making. Yep. And we tell some stories. And then we'd sing some more. And then we'd tell some more stories. Read some poems. And tell some more stories. And sing even more. And that is a tradition that brings me joy. This morning, before the service, some of us got together and hung the greens again. There we are. There's our tree, all decorated. As part of this tradition, we have a tradition inside a tradition, right? Like nesting dolls, right? And that is, if you have an ornament that has a nice story attached to it, and it makes you happy to put it on the tree here so that other people can see it, maybe remember the story that you told about the ornament and then make more happiness. Right? People would bring these ornaments in, and we had a book at one point. We tried to write the stories in the book so we could remember them. But this year, we have a friend named Jane Word. And Jane Word has an ornament that hasn't been on the tree yet and has a new story that she would like to tell us about that ornament. So I'm going to step over here, and then Jane's going to come up here, and she's going to tell you her ornament story.
Hi, I'm Jane Word. I'm a new member, and I was invited to place this ornament on the tree. Quite an honor. I was also invited in July to give a little talk, which I did, about 5 things I learned in nature. And that was a lot of fun for me. And this sort of symbolizes to me what that talk was about and the joy that I feel when I'm out in nature and enjoying the beauty that is there. So this is a pine cone. Sandy said it was an artichoke, but I'm identifying it as a pine cone. And I'm going to place it on the tree. But before I do, I want to thank you all for being such a welcoming community. You really live up to your covenant. So thank you. Here I go. Thank you.
A little bit of impromptu camera work there. I hope that worked out. All right. All right. Okay. All right. So if any of you would like to do the thing that Jane just did, feel free. If you've got an ornament today, next time we're here, if you want to email your story to Reverend Denise, revdenise@gnuuc.org, and she'll field those stories. We'll get them organized, right? And then next time you're in the sanctuary, feel free to bring your ornament in. We'll figure it all out. So yeah. All right. So on that note, if there are other joys or concerns that we might like to share, now would be a good time for that. So let's slide that goes with that, or is that not a thing? Okay, good deal. All right. Jesse, can I get you to shut down the YouTube live stream so that we